Hey folks, this week we talk with Mattias and Michael about JQ, the command line tool that works with JSON that is secretly a scripting language all unto itself. It's a lot of fun, you don't want to miss it. This is FLOSS Weekly, episode 842, recorded Tuesday, August the 12th. Will the real JQ please stand up? Hey folks, it is time for FLOSS Weekly. That's the show about free, Libre, and open source software. I'm your host, Jonathan Bennett, and we are back. We took sort of an unintentional 3-week break there. I blame the summertime and everybody traveling, but we've got guests lining up again, and we are back for the duration. Today, we've got Mattias Wadman and Michael Farber. They're going to tell me how badly I butchered their names as soon as we bring them on. But we're talking about JQ, the command line tool, but also sort of the ecosystem that's grown up around this idea of dealing with JSON information in the command line and in various different places. So rather than me talk about this tool that I've only used a few times, I'm going to bring the guys on, the absolute experts, and I will say, welcome to the show, both of you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Hey ho.
Hey.
Hello.
So, what I briefly mentioned it. We're talking about JSON, but I'm curious, and I know people that listen will not necessarily know. Like, what is the problem that JQ solves? Why would somebody want to use it? What are the situations where JQ is the tool that you need? And whoever wants to can jump in and answer that.
I think Mattias can go ahead because he's the clear JQ master here.
Okay.
I mean, it's any time you have a lot of don't have to be a lot, but you have some kind of JSON and you want to either query it for something or you want to transform it in some way.
Yeah.
So you want to either you want to maybe select out something and you want to turn it into something else.
So are we almost doing something like SQL queries with JSON?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's the equivalent, I guess, SQL. I guess SQL doesn't have the same maybe transformation powerfulness than the JQ has. I mean, you can do string concatenation and stuff in SQL, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's similar, I would say.
I was trying to think about the first time that I used JQ, and I'm pretty sure it was interacting with a web API that was giving me JSON. It may actually have been GitHub, now that I think about it, because there for a while I was working on doing some automated GitHub runners on like an ARM platform that I was self-hosting. And to do that right, you have to interact with their API, and they hand you back JSON. And I really did not want to write my own JSON parser in Bash. It just seemed like a terrible idea. So I went looking. It's like, surely there's a tool out there that does this. And JQ is the tool that I came across. It lets you just take the output from curl and do stuff with it, which is great.
Yeah.
I can perhaps give a nice anecdote where I found a very nice use of JQ, and that was, for example, during my scientific career, where I had to review an article, and there I got some benchmark data in JSON format too, and the guy who wrote the article, I wanted to verify his results, so I ran JQ and made a nice little one-liner to analyze this data, and it didn't fit with the official results in the article. So I got curious and I looked. The guy had written like some Python script in like 50 lines to do the same thing as I did in JQ in a single line, and the worst thing, it was wrong. Because the guy sorted numbers like strings. So like 1 was somehow larger than 10, and that completely broke everything. This is just an anecdote how having this JQ stuff makes you really capable of doing very complex analysis steps with very little effort and to get to your goal very quickly.
Yeah. What do you guys see people using it for mostly? Is it stuff like I did, writing glue code, or is it like data processing? What do you think is the more common use case from the community?
I'm not sure, but I would guess it's a lot of ad hoc programming. Like you want to do one-time things. You have to extract something, or you want to. I mean, I personally use it a lot for like exploratory programming. I think it's called when you like you're testing a lot of things. Could this be it, or could that be it? Like you don't really know what you're doing, so you want to.
Right.
And it fits very well with this like very short syntax for quickly test something.
So in that way, it sort of fits into the same toolbox as sed, grep, and awk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Precisely.
I'm curious about the background of both of you. Maybe let's start with Mattias. And I'm just like, where did you come into sort of the JQ ecosystem from, and what's your like primary? What do you do there? What's your thing inside of JQ?
Did we lose Michael? Oh, he's back.
He's coming and going.
Oh, heck. I mean, how I really got in. I mean, I have used JQ just to like indent JSON.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like it was a lot of people nearly know it as the JSON indenter.
Yeah.
But then I do a lot of work with the media files, or like binary formats, and media is a lot of binary formats. So there is like a lot of tools for various formats for like extracting into some text representation, and JSON is very common that they can output this. So then I end up using JQ to like further query this data or combine it with other output from other programs. So that's what I mean. That's how I started using JQ a lot. And then one day I wrote man JQ, and then realized that it was a functional programming language that can do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. So again, very much like sed or awk. You could do a lot with it. That's quite funny.
I really wonder, like, why is this man page so long? It's just an indenter. What is this?
Right. Oh, that's funny. And then same question. If we can, I think we lost him altogether. All right. Well, then I will. I'll stick with I'll stick with this line of questioning. So, what else? I know there's some other things that like are a part of the ecosystem. Are any of these tools that you maintain, Mattias? And then we'll get back to Michael since we finally have him back.
What was the question? If I maintain?
What do you maintain? Like what parts of the ecosystem do you directly have your hands in?
I mean, I'm part of the JQ maintenance team. We are like, I guess, I don't know, 7 people or something. Okay. But I think it's only 3 or 4 people that are active, and they are not very active. And no one is really active. JQ is in very maintenance mode, I would say. So we are more or less just fixing security related things or bugs or. So it's not many features will get added nowadays.
Yeah. How long has the tool been around?
I don't know. What is it? 10, 15 years? Do you remember the first? I actually dug up the first commit. Yeah, I dug up the
Wasn't
first
that 2011 or something like this?
Yeah, almost 15 years.
14 years.
Yeah. So and normally when we do the show, we'll ask people, like, what was the original problem? Why did someone sit down and go, I'm going to make a tool to handle JSON? But that wasn't either of you guys, and it's sort of a mystery at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the guy... Now I lost the name.
That's all right.
Dolan.
Stephen Dolan.
Yeah. He's. I have actually never talked to him, but he seems to not be around anymore doing JQ stuff.
I also have never talked to him.
Yeah, that's interesting. How did the project continue? Like, what did the path look like for the original founder to not be there anymore, and also like not even be accessible? Has there been problems because of that?
I can say what I kind of know about the history. I think Stefan disappeared. Well, there was an overlap when there were some other people working on JQ, like Nico Williams and some other people. And then I guess they also burnt out or had enough time to work on it. So then it like stopped being maintained for nearly, I don't know, 2-3 years. Nothing, more or less nothing happened. And then we were a bunch of people who kept like filing bugs, and we even fixed bugs, but they never got merged. So then I guess maybe was it 2 years ago, someone managed to reach out to Stefan, I think, so he could give some other people admin rights.
Finally got admin rights to the repository. Yeah, that's super handy.
Yeah, so then we more or less just created a JQ-Lang organization and moved all the code there instead. So now I guess we can continue at least.
Yeah, one of the projects I'm in, we had one of the developers sort of go AWOL for a while, and he was our Android developer, and unfortunately he had the 2-factor logins for the master Android account, and so we for like the last 6 months been going, it'd be really great to be able to get back into this, and it's been a real problem. Thankfully, we finally made contact with him again, I think just yesterday. Or maybe the day before, and we got back into the accountants and got everything we needed. I was so thankful that we were finally able to get a hold of him, and he was super helpful. He just, the lines of communication had broken down, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and finally somebody's like, let me just try emailing him at his personal email address. Maybe he'll see that. And he did. He saw it, and he helped us out. So I was like, it's goodness. Where are we at as far as like the health of the project? You mentioned there are seven people that are sort of active. Halfway active?
Around 7, I would say that, but I would say it's only like maybe 3 people who are kind of active.
But is it kind of at the point where it's done? I know this happens in some projects.
I mean, so I would say it's like a mix of things. I mean, it's not a big code base, but it's a fairly complicated code base. And I guess no one of the people who are actively working on it now was part of writing it, so it is quite tricky to do bug fixes. I would say
that's always interesting.
So no one, I don't think anyone was want to do big changes, but we have also been burnt by doing changes, and then we have caused regressions or security issues. So it's very, I mean, it's complicated C code. That's not fun.
Have you? I'm sure you've seen this, because I think every open source project has this. Have you hit the point to where like there's a thing in the code base that's been there for forever, and every time somebody works on it, they try to follow the pattern, but then you go back and look at it afterwards, and you go, I'm sure the guy that originally wrote this had something clever in mind, but the results in between, the results over the last 10 years are just terrible, and we need to rip all this out.
Yeah. There are parts that are like you see, like, okay, this is probably not what someone wanted, but yeah.
Yes, I've got a situation like that in the code that I maintained, that I help maintain, and it's one of those deals where it's like I'm sure the guy that originally did this, he was super smart. I'm sure he had a good reason for doing this. But it's like everybody has just followed the same pattern, and there's no reason for it now. So one of the things I've done is gone in and try to get rid of some of that stuff, and it's a slog.
Yeah, the other projects I maintain in the JQ, I have my own, like this FQ, which is a JQ clone, you could say, which is meant for binary formats. So it tries to more or less copy. Work exactly like JQ, but you can put in like MP4 files or whatever, and you can query you can query like, so what it does is it decodes various binary formats and then represent them more or less as if it's not JSON but the same data structures. Then you can write JQ code to filter out and do things with it.
Oh, interesting. What all binaries does that support? Is that just like media files, or?
Mostly media, but there's a bunch of other files.
And that's because you kind of have your hand in some FFmpeg code and some YTTLP code.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's that also. It's useful. It's a tool you could use while you're writing. You do things around those tools because you want to usually inspect or somehow debug or look at the files you generate if they are correct or something.
Yeah. So, Michael, I'm curious. Sort of what angle do you come into the JQ ecosystem from? What's your main use case? How are you mangling JSON on the command line?
So right now I'm not mingling so much JSON on the command line, but I still like to maintain Jacques as some kind of alternative JQ implementation, because I was kind of motivated to see how fast I could actually make JQ programs run. And I tried to follow some very naive approach at first to run JQ programs. So I just keep doing that and try to see how far I can push it. But at least on the JQ ecosystem, I'm not that involved with the original project, even if I try to. For example, I try to contribute documentation, but this was a rather mixed experience, I would say.
Okay. And so Jack is sort of this higher performance fork, alternative implementation of JQ?
Oh, it's actually not at all a fork. It's completely written from the ground up. I made it kind of via reverse engineering from JQ. I have no idea how JQ works internally. I have tried to never look at actual C code that's in JQ. I think with very rare exceptions, I've never looked at it.
That's funny. So what is Jack?
Yeah,
what is Jack written in then?
it's written in Rust. And I would say that this is part of the reason why it can be so fast while having a really simple code base.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the answer to when someone says you should have written that in Rust.
Yeah, at least in this case, I think it's a kind of a funny thing in the end, because I mean, JQ started out having been written in a functional programming language, namely Haskell. So it has really lots of ideas that stem from this period. And I think the rewrite for me in C, in some sense, would be some kind of a historical detour. And for me, it's like going in a circle to bring it back to a functional programming language. But now finally, with the performance that probably was not that much there in the original Haskell version, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fun. So are there any other projects out there? So you've got JQ, the command line tool, and then there's also like this language that's JQ, which is sort of this almost SQL sort of language. It's a query language in a way. Are there other projects out there that make use of that JQ language?
Yeah, Matthias?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are, like me, my FQ, but it's very similar to JQ. But I think there are two. I wonder, I know there are some that build it into their own tools. Now I lost which one, but don't GitHub have some EHE command that can do JQ?
Oh, that might be. I'm not sure.
I think so. I think there are tools that can do.
And so the various tools. So you guys each have sort of your own thing that you're using. Are you aware of like any big use case or any big users of that? Like, so we mentioned GitHub a couple of times. Is there some place in GitHub where it runs one of these, or is there somebody at Google or is there somebody at Meta that's running this internally that you know about?
Well, at least I know that some people at Amazon have used Jacques as a library, so they adapted, I think, Jacques in some way to run it with their own data formats, which is a use case that I anticipated already some time ago. I know that, for example, in Arch Linux, there is JQ like built in as a part of the base system that is required to build other packages, I think. There are also some other programs I know of, JNV, that is some kind of interactive JSON viewer that's also using Jacques. Yeah.
Yeah. And for each of you, is this just sort of a labor of love, or have you managed to make some money from it? Like, does it pay the bills at all, or are we just doing the regular open source thing where it's let's start with Mattias on this one. But I'm just curious.
It has not made me rich.
There's a very small group of people that open source has made rich.
I mean, it makes my work both my paid work and my stuff I do with my free time easier, I would say.
Yeah,
but nowadays I guess it's mostly for the passion of the language, I would say.
Yeah, and
I have been probably quite fortunate in some sense, because I am actually getting some funding from the Dutch NLNet Foundation. They have already given me 2 grants for continuing the development of Jacques. And so I'm in a really, really funny and good position to be able to profit from this to get paid also from that.
Yeah, that's really neat. Outside of NL, is there any funding outside of NLNet?
Not that I know.
All right. Yeah,
I know people have tried to contribute money or support to the JQ project, but it becomes a bit weird. Like, who should get paid? It gets complicated. So no. Yeah, so we don't have any donation page or anything.
Yeah, I've seen this before, where it's like there's an open source project and there's people out there. We want to give money. We just need. And one of the ones that I remember hearing that really fascinated me is it was a business. It was like, we want to give money for support for this. We just need you to give us an invoice. And the people on the other side behind the project were like, we don't have a business. We can't generate any invoices. It's like,
yeah, and I guess it can get a bit like who should get paid and who decide what.
It is a dicey question. It can be a dicey question. But there are some tools out there now to make it a little bit better. So GitHub has the GitHub sponsors thing. You could set up a Patreon for the individuals. There are a couple of different ways to go about it, but it's still not a completely solved problem. You've got some companies out there like TideLift and some others that are looking at this and like trying to figure out how do we help. And then there's the various collectives, like the project I use. We've got an open collective set up, and that's where a lot of this money goes to. But you still have the question of, okay, how do I get the money from the collective to the developers? And that's not always an easy thing to figure out. The Jack version, the Rust version of JQ, is there sort of a game plan where it becomes the official JQ?
Not that I know. Maybe Michael has some conspiracies how we will do it.
Yeah, we'll get him back here in a minute. We'll ask him that question if he's conspiring to become the real JQ. Will the real JQ please stand up?
I mean, I guess both me and Michael and the other JQ maintainers have played around with more like trying to do the thing that Michael has been doing, like trying to get some kind of specification like for JQ, so that you can kind of decouple the JQ language from the original JQ implementation, so that you can so you get more of a so you can have moved, so you don't have this de facto implementation that JQ, the original JQ code is. But I don't know where we are on that, really.
Yeah.
We have tried.
That's quite the project. Quite the project. Michael, are you secretly trying to make Jack the official JQ and eject the C code?
I think this is a very hard task. It would be nice in some sense, but I don't think whether it's like feasible. I mean, it's also not completely compatible, so you would end up with some people who would then probably complain, oh, it's not doing the same thing as it always did before. And because by trying to make it better, I had in some sense to make it a bit different. And these differences, they show So it's some kind of, I would say, perhaps some kind of spiritual successor to the implementation that we
Right.
have right now. But I try to see kind of the ideal thing that I want the language to be, and I try to implement something around that does this. But and also trying to fix some historical mistakes at the same time. But yeah, you know of probably all this XKCD thing with the heating, with the spacebar heating button.
Yes.
So I'm a victim of that in some sense.
Yes, understood. Very much so. Okay, so we have JQ itself for JSON, and then we have this binary parser that uses the JQ language. Are there any other interesting data types that have like a JQ parsers for them? So like I'm thinking of XML, SOAP. Ugh. I do not enjoy working with SOAP. I've had to a time or two. It's sort of the worst thing I've ever had to touch. YAML, like there are a lot of these different formats that are sort of all interconnected. Do you guys know? Are there parsers for those that we can use?
Yeah, I mean, FQ can read some of this text format also. But I will say that this is, I guess Michael can talk about this. He has been working on, has a better chance of making this better than FQ does it, but it will lose some information because of some limitations
Right,
of the JK
right.
implementation is used, like the ordering of like objects, the keys
Sure.
in object and things that.
So it seems interesting that another approach to this would just be to have tools that convert to JSON and then pipe the JSON into JQ. And like that's another way to go about it. But like you said, there's I suppose there's some metadata, like some ordering that you might lose when you go to do it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
problem is, in some sense, I will speak faster so that if I lose the connection again. So the problem is, in some sense, that JSON is a quite limited format in some sense because you don't have, for example, binary data format in JSON, or you do not have. Sometimes you have differing big integer support in JSON parsers. So in the last months, I have worked towards having more format support in Jacques, and I'm quite inspired by what Mattias has done in FQ. So I have already some parsers for XML or CBOR or TOML or YAML in Jacques. This is still part of some ongoing effort, but it's already quite nice. I use this already myself, at least the XML part to extract some data from a website. Yeah, so it's coming along nicely, and I'm aiming to make this a nice replacement in some sense for FQ, where you don't need it. It's very advanced analysis capability for files.
Yeah. Are there any things that was in JQ that you looked at and said this is overkill, nobody needs this? So I'm seeing your list here. You talk about generators and backtracking, lambda args, the terse syntax. Was some of this? Did some of this just get ejected in the version of it that you guys have made?
These are you name all the good things about JK.
As you can tell, I've not made great use of it. For me, it's just a JSON parser. People just about writing their own programming languages inside of it. It seems like.
I mean, I would say this generator aspects of JQ is that's the heart of JQ. I would say that's the thing that makes it interesting.
I agree with that.
And it's also the thing that makes it most confusing for people, I would say.
I do,
because it doesn't really behave as other language.
I do remember when I was trying to actually get a particular bit of data back out of it. So, I'm used to other languages. So surely it'll work like this, dot and then the name of the thing I want. Surely that'll do it. No output. Okay. Dash and then the name of it. I went through several of these iterations. Like, surely this is how it'll work. And I finally had to go and read the manual. I was like, oh, okay. I couldn't even tell you at the moment off the top of my head how I ended up needing to do the thing I ended up doing. It's like, well, this is upside down and backwards, but I suppose it works.
I would say that once you kind of get the generated part of JQ, it kind of like clicks for you, and then you realize, okay, this is very consistent and a very nice language.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
One thing I was quite curious about is that sometimes I wrote that JQ is a functional programming language in my introduction to Jacques, and then people write on Reddit, oh, it now makes sense. It's a functional programming language. If I would have known this from the start, it would have been so much easier.
Yeah, interesting. That's a useful way to sort of look at this. So is it Turing complete?
Of course,
very
there have been people writing brain interpreters, white space interpreters, all kind of weird esoteric languages have been run in JQ.
Even JQ.
Yes, that's something Mattias did.
Oh.
I can even get it running in Jack for some.
Yeah.
Like a year ago, maybe.
So
we got JQ running in Jack.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
goodness. Can go circles.
Yeah. You can actually run JQ in JQ, but
it's JQ all the way down.
You're used to at least.
So have people done the fun things like Conway's Game of Life and all of those inside of JQ?
Probably.
I don't know about that. I have recently written some kind of little physics simulation and used JQ as some kind of image generation thing, image generation tool to create a little movie where you see a little ball falling. And that was basically to test binary data output, because I generate images as binary data and everything is written in JQ.
That is amazing and horrifying at the same time.
It's not that bad, because it's actually just like around 10 lines of code or something like this. So it's quite nice.
Okay. I'm convinced that is more impressive than it is horrifying.
It's quite. I actually used FQ for like reading. This was some weird binary formats. I think it was some TCP PCAP file. So then I ended up using FQ to like decode the PCAP file and then going through some HTTP answer in that PCAP file and then use that to parse XML and then output as actually an SVG file, because you could just produce this JSON XML representation of an SVG file.
That's
and then
great.
So that worked, and it was very nice, I would say. But maybe I've spent a little bit too much time in JQ, so for me it was nice at least.
Yeah.
So I've only interacted with JQ as like a command line command itself. Is this thing almost like a script interpreter then? Can I write a file? You talked about 10 lines of JQ code. Can I write a file of JQ commands? Can I put a splat bang JQ at the top of it and run it?
Yeah. You can.
Interesting. And then is there IDE support anywhere? Like, can I do this in VS Code?
I've written an LSP for JQ, so you can have some kind of edit support. And I guess there are some syntax highlighting in some other editors also.
Oh, that's fun.
But I think the LSP should work with the NeoVim and the VS Code and some other editors.
Yeah. Is there library support then? I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how much of a programming language this is, because this is not at all the paradigm that I had in my mind. So like, are people writing JQ libraries out there to do some of this? Or is that sort of what you guys do with your alternative implementations?
Yes. You can like import code in JQ.
Oh, that's great.
You have a whole module system actually in JQ. You can combine this with some kind of one-liners, so you can have like a complex module where you have some background functions, and then you just use a one-liner, and then you say, I include this module and I use the functions in there.
That's great. That's This is not at all what I thought we would be talking about today. It is amazing.
You said we should make like a geek talk.
Oh,
so
no, absolutely. I'm not
like
complaining. I'm just still trying to wrap my mind around it.
I just say sometimes like this JSON part of JQ is just like it's just a side thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just happens to be JSON in and out.
Right. Which, I mean, that sort of brings to mind this idea that you could totally rewrite it as the programming language, as a scripting language. And then you could have your JSON stuff just be one of these modules.
Yes. In Jack, for example, this JSON parsing is just one of the modules, and they are completely like they have the same. No, it's not more important than any other format. Like it doesn't have a special role compared to, let's say, CBOR or YAML or something. This is just a detail, really.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so what then, if we're looking at it this way, what is the big advantage of JQ, the language, over Bash or Python or JavaScript or, even something more esoteric?
I would say generators. Would you say generators?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are generators then? For those of us that have not programmed in JQ, what does a generator let you do?
So perhaps, if I may say this, it's really, if you know Rust, then a generator is basically just an iterator. It's really exactly the same thing. At least in Jacques, I implement generators as iterators. So there's a completely clean mapping between these two. It's just a sequence of elements that may be infinite even, and that is produced one after the other. Each element is produced. That's a generator.
Okay.
For example, when you do this, when you iterate over an array in JQ, this gives you an iterator, and each element in this iterator will be an element of the array, and it gives you one after the other, all of the array elements.
Has anybody thought, so it's an interpreted language, right? Has anybody thought about a JQ compiler?
There have been thoughts. I know there is one project that compiles JQ somehow, but it's very impractical to use, as I understood it.
It's fun. There's this like alternative future where you're doing embedded developing and you're writing your embedded firmware with JQ and
I probably wouldn't go that far, but at least I would say that JQ, the implementation, is for me actually pretty close to a compiler. It just compiles to, I think, some kind of VM instructions. So this is actually a compiler. Jacques is an interpreter. But for me, the funny thing was to realize that I could write an interpreter that's most of the times faster than the compiler, than the compiled and executed thing with the machine instructions. That was for me the huge wow effect.
Yeah, interesting. And it's because you're getting the advantage of all of the tricks that your Rust thing has built into it, right? Like it's doing just in time, and you give it these big data structures, and it's already got the optimizations in there to handle that data structure. Is that sort of thing that's going on?
A lot of that is responsible, yes. For example, one thing is, as we explained, this generator thing, and I said when you're iterating over an array, then you get all the elements. And in Rust, that's an iterator. And these iterators in Rust, they can have some kind of size hints. So they can tell you, oh, I think I will give you, let's say, 10 elements. And when you give it an array of 10 elements, it will tell you, oh yeah, this iterator will actually give you 10 elements back. And when you then collect these elements back into some array, then it will allocate automatically the right amount of space for your array, and it can infer this from the generator.
Makes sense. So one of the other things that you guys mentioned in the email, besides generators, was backtracking. What exactly is backtracking in JQ?
It's a very hard question.
It's hard to explain.
I actually, if I can talk about the language, I think that there is no real backtracking actually.
Okay.
Backtracking is just an implementation detail, how you can implement a JQ compiler or interpreter or something like that. But for example, in JAC you don't have backtracking. That's really a thing. It's a thinking from the imperative world. But from the functional programming language world, you don't have backtracking.
Okay.
You just have recursive functions that call each other and that produce all like streams of data. And when one of these functions finishes, for example, then you could say you are somehow backtracking or something like this. But it's a detail, really.
Okay, got it. Lambda args, I assume, is sort of the same lambda that we're used to from other languages, or is there a JQ flavor on those as well?
I guess there is. I don't know what do you call them, Michael? This when that you have when you define a function in JQ, you have this that there's like this implicit input-output argument. I don't know. At least the name.
Dot.
Yeah, that you don't have to say anything. You can, or then that you can, when you call a function that takes an argument in JQ, by default it is a lambda. So when you call the function, you give it another JQ filter as argument.
Yes.
So what do you? I don't know how to even call them. Funks or something.
I don't know. I don't really know what to call them. I don't have a name. Because they're actually kind of just generators again. Yeah. Like,
but it's very, I would say it's very different from a lot of other languages. That this is how it would be kind of like it's like having that by default all argument in Python or whatever, they were all functions, all the arguments. So you always so you had to use lambda something when you call them. In JQ that is by default. You don't have to. Everything is. Yeah, you can write the dollar and things then to make it into a value to force the generator to run, kind of.
I would say it's like a lazily evaluated function that you can give to functions, and these functions can then just call this function, and this function argument that you get, it can like run in different contexts. And it can also produce different things, but it's a bit difficult really to explain. I have to say that this was also confusing me a lot at the beginning, because there are some things that these functions, they can even capture variables from where you call them, but other things they kind of get from where they are actually called. It's just really weird. This probably goes too much into the depth.
I guess you probably have to show some slides or something to explain this. It's bit, but this is what you use in the standard library in JQ, like these map functions or sort, or the argument to map is a filter, kind of that transforms something.
Interesting. So I'm curious, like, what's the user base size? So you guys have described a language that is really fascinating, has some, it sounds like, really unique features, but is maybe very hard to get started with. How many people have taken the plunge and actually know? How many people know that JQ is more than just a JSON parser?
I mean, a lot of people know that it's it can reformat JSON, and then I guess there's a little bit less people who just use it like the most basic syntax just to like more or less write simply JavaScript, more or less dot something, and then people who actually write like own functions or things in JQ, that is probably, I don't know, can't be many people.
It's, I would say, like awk or something like set. It's the same thing. Like there,
exactly.
It has these tools have lots of power, but most people don't really realize it. And it's hard even to estimate how many people use it in a very basic way or how many are really advanced org hackers. Very hard to get these numbers. It's actually also a problem I have a lot because I have no clue who's really using my software. I just can estimate it from this little the tip of the iceberg of people who write me issues or something. And the problem is even like with JQ, you have like issues from time to time, for example, about security vulnerabilities or something. But if you don't have security vulnerabilities or something like this, then you have like really not many issues, so you cannot really estimate how many users you have.
This is the problem to writing it in Rust. You have less issues.
Yes, true.
Does Cargo not give you any statistics about downloads?
I think I once saw it. There were like 70,000 downloads per month.
Oh wow! Okay.
Or something like this, but I don't even know how many of these are directly just for Jacques, or how many of these are for projects that use Jacques as a dependency or something like this. So I can really only speculate.
Yeah. Are you aware of some interesting projects that do pull in Jack as a dependency?
Yes, so there is this JNV, this JSON viewer that you can also, that has a nice integration with Jacques. You can directly run JQ scripts inside that viewer. And this is, funnily enough, it has more stars on GitHub than Jacques itself. So it's like, in some sense, we're like we're the turtles. We're building the foundation.
Yep.
And I know of this Amazon project where the people there, some guy working at Amazon really made me some nice compliment. He said, "Yeah, what a great library Jacques is." So it's always nice to get something back, like from people who are using it to see like that you're actually having some impact there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But this has been super fascinating. There are things that I had no idea were possible with the whole JQ language and ecosystem. I don't know that I am actually going to go and learn how to use it as a scripting language because I have enough on my plate, but I'm sure there are people that are listening that will want to. If somebody wants to learn more, if somebody wants to learn the JQ language, is there a good place to go to get started?
So I guess the JQ manual would be the natural place to go. I mean, at least I learned the JQ language there. This is written in a quite nice way, I would say. I have tried to improve that documentation also at some point, but this was not really merged. I hope that I can be able to say in some months or years or something like that, go to this new version of the manual. It has much nicer sections now.
I will try to get it merged. I will hope I can focus on people to get it merged. I want to merge it.
I know how that goes too. Has anybody done like a YouTube series on getting started with JQ?
Yeah, I think there are some YouTube tutorials.
Okay, yeah.
And there are a bunch of tutorials, like websites that there is this... I saw some months ago, there was someone who made like a JQ game where you get like JSON input and then you see the output and then you're supposed to write the JQ.
Oh, that's
It's like an adventure game with JQ. And now I don't remember the name of it, but that was cool.
Yeah. I wonder if you could do the advent of code in JQ. Are you guys familiar with that?
It has been done.
It has been done. Last Christmas season, I got real excited. I was going to do it in Rust because I've always found Rust to be real fascinating, and I've never sat down and learned anything about it. And so I was going to do the advent of code in Rust. And I got through like the first 2.5 days, and then real life took over, and I have not gone back and touched it since then.
Typical.
Yes, it is. I go through this a lot with different things. Maybe one day I'll get to it and be able to add Rust to my card, put it on there as a Rust developer too. Goodness. All right. Is there as we're getting down to the end of the show, is there anything I did not ask you guys about? Anything that you want to let folks know about that we didn't get to? I know this is a difficult one because you have to think about all the things we talked about and then think about the things that you have to do set math in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing comes to mind, that's fine too. All right. We talked about where to get more. All right. So as we close, I've got to ask each of you a final pair of questions because I do get chewed out if I forget to do this by my community. Let's start with Mattias. What is your favorite text editor and scripting language?
I mean, JQ probably is my favorite nowadays.
that works.
I probably use it a little bit too much, I would say. But otherwise, I guess I write some. I don't know what I write. Otherwise, Python maybe. If I need to script something. Yeah. But I think JQ is very good for at least when it's short stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I use Visual Code, but I use with the Vim extension. So I'm more or less using Visual Code as a Vim.
Yep.
So I get all these like LSP stuff and other things that I like. I should probably try to learn NeoVim, or Vim. I have been using Vim for a long time back in the days. So then I got comfortable with VS Code, but at least with Vim extension.
And Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a long-time Vim user, GVim to be precise. I tried to, at some point I used VS Code too, but I found this so horrible that I switched back at some point to Vim. And some people say, yeah, but this is so hard, and so how can you do without the autocomplete? But I think it's actually good to do it the hard way sometimes.
Sure.
At least I think it forces you to write your code in a way that's nicely navigatable without all these fancy techniques. So in the end, I think even if you use something like VS Code to browse my code, I hope that it's nicer to browse in the end. At least for Vim users, it will, or any other editors, it will hopefully make a difference. And scripting language-wise, I think mostly on the same page with Mattias. I also like to use a lot of JQ, but I have so many throwaway little Rust scripts in my home folder. I always make cargo new foo or something like that, and then make this throwaway one-liner, and then make another one. So I have like many of these foo and bar and all of these folders and blah in my home directory.
Guilty. Yes, I too am guilty of this. That's fun. All right. Hey, thank you guys so much for coming and chatting about this. It was definitely an education for me. I'm sorry we had some technical problems, but you know what? I'll fix it. We'll fix it all in post. Nobody will be the wiser.
Yeah, great. In the end, it worked. I just had to refresh a lot the page, and yeah, but it's stressful.
Yes, it was. That's all right. Again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, that was Mattias and Michael about JQ, the surprise programming language, not the JSON parser, although it does some JSON too. But yeah, a lot of fun. We will be back next week. We've got next week scheduled already too, hopefully with a co-host next week. That would be nice. We're talking with Farid Abelor about Kdenlive, and I'm sure we'll have some inside baseball because that's the program that I do the video editing for this show on, and so maybe I'll bug him about some things that I've seen that don't work all that great. But anyway, we will be back next week. We appreciate everybody that gets us, that watches live, gets us on the down low, whether it's just the audio or the video. We appreciate it very much, and we will see you next week on Floss Weekly.